Hi, guys. Welcome to Farmer Fridays, where I get to talk to agriculturists, ag organizations, and ag businesses across the state of West Virginia. My name is Elizabeth Lynch, your Miss Jefferson County 2022. I am so excited to talk to my guest today. I have Miss Jennifer King from Eversweet Apiaries. How are you this morning, Jennifer?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for agreeing to be on my Farmer Friday interviews. So go ahead and tell me about yourself and a little bit about your agricultural background.
Yeah, my name is Jennifer King, and I'm the owner of Eversweet Apiaries, and that is a bee equipment. I've been doing this since 2013, and I guess the question number two is the history. And I'll jump right into that if you don't mind, because that kind of goes along with number one there. Yeah, this was my father's business. He actually started this in 2002. So we're celebrating our 20th year now. And I say we, but it's just me. And it's just a habit of, when he was alive. And so, yeah, we're still celebrating our 20th year of providing bee education and equipment and honey.
Amazing. So tell me some about the products that you offer at Eversweet.
Well, it is a business, but I like to look at it more as an educational center. So yeah, I'm not really a business. I'm just more of a center there. But we do offer honey, all sorts of local and non-local honey. And our honey lobby is open 24/7 with honor system for paying by cash or check. So people can come in at 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes they do, to buy honey. And you can see the picture or some of it out there. And then we offer the equipment, for beekeepers to get started in bees or to continue, beekeeping. And we offer bees, for people to get started, and queens if they need a queen, if something happened to their queen, or they're splitting their hive or something like that.
Amazing. And when I first read about your business, I was just completely over the moon excited about your dedication to beekeeping education. So can you tell me about how you educate your community about beekeeping?
I spend a lot of time educating, countless hours, and that's cool because I'm a bee advocate first and foremost. And so I do a lot of walk-in, education. People, beekeepers coming in, having questions, what's going on with their hives. I'm also a virtual mentor for people across the US. They'll send pictures, emails, like what's going on in your hive. The bee is the bee, the biology is the same no matter where the honeybee is. It's just the weather and the foraging conditions are going to dictate, behavior.
Right.
And so I can offer, this help to, non-local beekeepers as well. And so people email, Facebook, phone sometimes. So yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. That's so cool. And you have that large outreach already. So that's
Mhm.
really exciting to hear. What do you think is the most challenging thing about working in your field?
There's a lot of challenges. I'd say probably one of the biggest challenges is the probably re-education of honey. um, a lot of people think that you have to consume local honey in order to help with allergies, and that's a myth.
Okay.
The National Institute for Allergies hasn't supported that claim. And I get a lot of people that come in and they swear by my honey that they've, had stopped taking their inhalers and all of that. And first I say, well, I'm not a doctor, so I don't recommend doing that. But if it works for you, then great, because it's a natural sugar substitute and it's good for you. But a lot of people turn their nose up at honey that's not local. And that's kind of sad. because there's so many different honeys in the world. There's 300 different honeys in the US alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and so what I like to do is bring in honey from different areas just to try to broaden people's minds and palates to these different honeys. And the way that we collect honey as beekeepers and pollen is different. So not a lot of pollen even gets into our honey. And so when we collect pollen, it gets knocked off of their legs, like at the front door. And so, that's a separate product. And most of the things that the bees forage on is not what people are allergic to. People are allergic to grasses and hays and things like that, and some tree pollen. But again, not a lot of pollen even gets into the honey. So basically, bottom line, if it's raw and pure, it's good honey. If it hasn't been heated, beyond like 130 degrees, then it still has its nutrients and enzymes. And that could be what's helping people's immune systems and possibly allergies. And the most medicinal honey in the world right now, and the big trend is the Manuka honey. And that's not local, that comes from New Zealand, and there's a black market for that stuff. So yeah, so it's frustrating to me that people, don't want to try these different honeys and kind of poo-poo on, like California honey, and California beekeepers work just as hard as, us West Virginia beekeepers, and their honey is as good as well. And honey's a lot like wine, it has a lot of undertones, tonal qualities to it, floral. And we don't turn our noses up at California wine. So why would we do that to honey? So long story there, but yeah, that's kind of challenging too.
No, that's so cool because I didn't know anything about that. So that's amazing. And I'm sure my viewers are going to get a lot of information from this as well. So that's
Good.
phenomenal.
Good,
Now,
good.
on the flip side of everything, what do you think is the best thing about your job?
Being able to work with bees. It's rewarding, it's fascinating. These creatures are just amazing. And the things that they know how to do just within their short amount of lifetime. They're only alive 6 weeks in the spring and summer, and they literally work themselves to death. But they know how to do math, and they can do facial recognition, and they remember smells. It's just, it's amazing.
Wow, that is really neat. Now, my whole life, I've heard about the beekeeping population and it's on the decline. So, can you tell me a little bit about that? And then why should people be concerned?
It has been on decline. It's kind of a perfect storm of problems that's happened to the honeybee. They've been introduced, or non-native bugs have been introduced to the U.S. Varroa mite is the top public enemy of the varroa, or the honeybee. And they're a parasitic mite that sucks their fat stores, but also spreads diseases. So there's like 30 different viruses associated with the varroa mite, and it makes it very hard for the bees to overwinter. And in places where they don't experience winter, they're still having, difficulties with their bees colonies staying alive. So that is one of there's three problems facing honeybees. So that's one. The second one is the lack of foraging and monocultures, because we keep ripping away food sources for them and developing. And so like, we don't grow food anymore. We grow townhomes and strip malls. And we don't put smart plants back in the place of plants that we rip out either. A lot of times they'll put ornamental hybrid plants back, and those don't offer nectar for the bees and pollinators. So And then, of course, the monocultures, that's just food deserts of corn and soy. So they need, they're like humans, they need a varied diet of nutrition and minerals and vitamins. And so just having one food source is not healthy for them. Then the third prong to the bees is poor education and bee management. And so, the media has been a double-edged sword for about 30 years now. That's when the varroa mites hit the scene in the late 80s. And I think they're finally getting it right, the media, as far as, what's happening to the bees. Because for the longest time, they just focused on pesticides. And pesticides is still a problem and an issue. However, it wasn't the biggest issue. And a lot of people want to help honeybees, and they think the best way they could do that is maybe become a beekeeper. And it's just not for everybody. You have to have time and commitment to these critters, just like any other animal husbandry field. And it's not like, your grandfather's way of beekeeping where you just set them out in the field, collect honey from them, and then see you next winter bees. It takes management now. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people with their schedules and whatnot. And you have to be on the bee schedule. You can't be on your schedule. And I don't always practice what I preach. Life gets in the way, but there's consequences for that. And at least I know, like where things went wrong and everything. So that's why we really, really focus on the education and how important it is, because like you wouldn't want to get a horse and not know how to take care of it.
Right.
Like, oh, can I keep it in the living room? No. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what can people do at home to kind of help with the bee population? Is there certain things that we should plant or be concerned with?
Yes, first and foremost, that's the best thing that anybody can do for bees is to plant bee-friendly plants. And there's lots of lists on the internet for bee-friendly plants. Particularly, you want to look for ones that grow or bloom, offer nectar in the late summer, early fall, because that's when the bees desperately need it. In the spring, everything is unicorns and rainbows. Everything's blooming and growing. But then as the season goes on, these flowers, it just kind of dwindle. It's like here in the mid-Atlantic around July 15th is like somebody just turned the nectar spigot off. And then we as beekeepers have to start feeding our bees sugar water because they need carbohydrates to survive, and also to encourage them to keep raising babies. And that's what we want as well, because we need them to really populate up for the winter, and so they'll have better chances to survive the winter. But that really sucks as a beekeeper, to not only have to get that sugar, but more importantly, it's a poor substitute for nectar for the bees. And so if we had these sources available, it would definitely be better for the bees.
Okay, that's good to know.
There's lots of lists on the internet for bee-friendly plants. And then you might have to look at these lists and can they grow here in this area? Check your grow zone. Buckwheat is a really good plant, and it grows quickly, although the deer really love it. So sometimes they'll gobble that up before the bees get a chance to get it.
Okay. So it's kind of switching gears a little bit. COVID-19, of course, as we know, has affected the agricultural industry in so many ways. How has it affected your business?
I think the biggest thing, what has happened, and this just isn't to me, but all businesses, is that all of the education and campaigns that we had for Shop Local have kind of regressed and backslided. Because I've noticed so many people go straight to the internet for their equipment or whatever they're buying, and it's almost like they've forgotten about us and the value that we add to the industry, the community, all of that. Because when you come here and you need equipment, I'm going to be able to tell you what this equipment, how to use it, how the bees are going to respond to it, the best way to go about it. And you're not going to get that when you just go to Amazon and buy whatever. So I think that, and I get it, because COVID, it became a necessity to, not, be around people and get things online and things like that. But I hope that we can, get back to, really shopping local.
So, what can our community do to help you and businesses like yours after the COVID-19 pandemic? And is that just continue to shop local and work with businesses like yours?
Well, absolutely, yes. But then back to the bees and planting. That's probably the biggest thing, and like, this isn't about me, this is about the bees. And so that's what I want to see, is more food sources for the bees.
Okay. Now, what is one thing that you want your community or your state to know about the West Virginia beekeeping industry?
Gosh, I don't know. I think there's a lot that can be done for the bees and throughout the state. I've heard rumors about, mining top reclamation and plans for that. And I don't know where that stands. But like, if we can grow these food sources on top of these cleared mountaintops, and that would be awesome. So just, I guess, more support, for the bees themselves, and get back to planting food.
Now, what advice would you want to give to somebody who wants to start working with bees?
Before you get any equipment, do anything, take a year at least to read as much as you can, get as much education as you can, because beekeeping can turn into a money pit very quickly if you don't understand what's happening. And it's not a cheap hobby. Now you can save money if you have your, a wood shop, carpentry skills, things like that, can go out and catch swarms, bees. But if you can't do all of that, for a setup of like 2 hives, and all your accessories and equipment can run anywhere from $600 to $1,000. And then once you get them, if you're successful the first year, which most people are, it's usually the second year when they start running into issues. But if you can't get them through winter, then that's a great loss. And people tend to be on this treadmill of, I'll just get more bees, but they don't really dig into what happened to the bees. And so that education, it's like building a house. And if you have a good foundation, then you can build upon that. And if you don't, it's to like building a house on sand, and YouTube is, I'm sorry, it's not a great educator. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but there's a lot of bad stuff too. And a lot of people, everybody with a phone is an expert. And for a beginner, it's very easy to get led astray and go down a wrong road and not be able to suss out, this is garbage, and next video. So I try to tell beginners to stay away from YouTube, the internet, and forums too, they're kind of bad. But stick to like university sites, which there's several: Penn State, North Carolina State, Washington State. And then there's 2 great Bee Informed Partnership and the Honeybee Health Coalition. And those are great science-based places. And so, build your foundation with science, and then you can learn, through the experience of having bees, all their weird behaviors and oddities. We'll never learn everything about bees. I mean, we've only been trying to domesticate them since the Pharaoh days. And, just because we stick them in a box doesn't mean they're domesticated. They do lots of weird stuff sometimes. They're bugs. So, but yeah.
And this is something that I preach all the time is if you're going to go into any sort of agricultural field, educate yourself first and use peer-reviewed journals. Look at scientific articles. And that's something that I talk about all the time. So thank you very much for reiterating that.
Yes, it's a big thing. And like my dad, he was very adamant, and he wouldn't even sell bees to people if they didn't take a course like through a local beekeeping club. And in the beginning, I thought that was kind of harsh. I was like, Dad, there is the internet. There are books. They can self-teach, But now I get it. I think a lot of people, I don't understand why they don't take the time. And the beekeeping world, it's very eclectic and weird as well. There's no standard curriculum for bee education either. So it's kind of like the wild, wild west, and different clubs have different styles of teaching and different ways. And I mean, they're all volunteers, and I'm not bashing clubs at all, but some clubs are better than others. And so I usually tell people, a lot of people think just because they took like one beginner's course, that's it, that's all they need. And I'm like, no, go take another one, and preferably from a different club. Then you have something to compare it to.
Right.
And, and it is a little bit time consuming to do, but it's definitely worth it. And I definitely, for the folks who've been at it 2 or 3 years and are still struggling, I tell them, you got to go back to square one. You're missing some puzzle pieces somewhere. And then because it is a lot of information that gets thrown at people too. And it's hard, especially when they don't have the bees yet, to understand what's happening. And then you get the bees, and it's like, oh, okay, I remember something that they were saying about this. But yeah, it's like a continual education field as well, with refreshers, and there's always emerging science that's coming out. That is probably the only thing good that has happened because of the varroa mite, is that we took honeybees for granted for a very long time. And now we've mapped their genome. We would have never done that, I think, if it wasn't because the mites. And so this, serious issue, like, okay, we got to really focus on this. And so there's so much science coming out now, and it's great. But yeah, education, I can't stress it enough.
All right. So historically, agriculture has been a very male-dominated industry. So talk to me about your experience as a woman in agriculture, and what advice would you give to any future female agriculturists?
Beekeeping, again, is weird. I mean, it's got many facets to it too. And so I'm on a different side of it, where there's 3 categories of beekeeping. There's commercial, sidelining, and hobbyist. So a hobbyist has like 2, or 10 hives, but they haven't quit their day job. They're just doing it for fun. Sideliners, they can have anywhere from 50 to 100, and they use some of the hives for profit. So I'm considered a sideliner. I got about 50 hives, and then commercial beekeepers or folks that are all in, they have like 500 to 1,000 or more hives, and they quit their day job. That's all that they do. And so of course, I'm a retailer too of the equipment. So in the commercial side of it, it is very male dominated. In the seller side of the equipment, it's very male dominated. But then when you jump over into the hobbyist and sideliner areas, it's very diverse. Lots of female beekeepers. So I see all sides of it. And I haven't really experienced a lot of problems. But I have sensed some things sometimes. I was like, what was that? What was that statement about? Like that. But I just brush it off. And if you're confident in your skills and knowledge, then that goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And you can stand your ground and go toe to toe with anybody. But so yeah, just know your stuff, basically.
Perfect. All right. So my final question for you, taking from my favorite speech by E.M. Tiffany, why do you believe in the future of agriculture?
Oh wow. I think that we have lost our way. We lost touch, lost our roots. When we have a large population of people that don't understand our food system, don't understand how pollination works. I get a lot of people that come in and I swear I remember learning this in school, like it's been a while, elementary school, but it's like we learned about this, and they don't understand how that works. And it's a little bit frightening that we've lost our way and we don't understand, where our food comes from. And there's a lot of reasons for that, government, big ag, this and that and the other. But we've learned, we've had things shown to us recently how delicate our system is. And, there's been many people warning us for a while about these issues. And so I'm all for, homesteaders, people having their little gardens, and just really getting back to our basics and roots, because those folks are our backbone.
Yes, ma'am.
And we cannot forget them. We have to support them. And so anytime that we can do that, we should. And so yeah.
Well, excellent. Those are actually all of the questions that I have for you today. I can guarantee you that the people who are watching this video are going to get a ton of information from it. So thank you again for agreeing to do this with me today.
Thank you. And so there's a lot of information on our website as well. Beekeeping tips. We even have online classes to take too for beginner, beekeeper, advanced, and all sorts of stuff. So anybody that's interested in that, they can do it from the comfort of their own home.
All right, guys, you heard it here. Go check out their website. I'll include it in my Facebook post for you to just click the link and check everything out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you again for agreeing to interview with me today. That's all that I have for you today for my Farmer Friday interviews. Remember, guys, please go thank your farmers.
Thank you.
Bye.